YouTube, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the show. Look, it's confirmed, it's official, November 13th. We're about to flip the entire crypto market upside down. The first ever spot XRP ETF, that's right, it is finally going live. And what is lining up behind it? It might just be the ignition that we need. The fuel to the fire to light this full-blown bull run that is sitting right in front of us, and we're talking about it right here. Canary Capital, November 13th. Get ready, circle your little calendars, because this thing is going down. Look, the government still closed, but are they really? We're going to talk about that in a second, but it doesn't really matter because these ETFs are allowed to go live under an auto-effective rule stated in Section 8A of the Exchange Act. You can see it right here. We'll highlight this line for those of you that are reading. So this auto-effective rule, what it means pretty much, if the SEC denies or has a comment in regards to the ETF, then it could be postponed. But if they say nothing and they leave it alone, then it automatically gets approved and it goes live. Well, with the SEC having a little skeleton crew, they're not denying anything, they're barely working. And I think they have a lot more important pieces of paperwork to go through than this XRP ETF. What do you think? Because they just let a Solana, HBAR, and Litecoin slip through the door. But here's where it gets interesting, because the week after, we have a Bitwise spot ETF coming to life with a 21 shares coming to life after that. It's about to get interesting out there in XRP ETF land, okay? So you got 21 shares launching on the 27th of November, Bitwise the week before then on the 19th, and then you got Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, and Wisdom Tree all right behind it, plus the other 20-something that are going to come to life once the government does reopen, and it looks like the government's going to be reopened this week. Now, if you've been paying attention, which I'm pretty sure you have been paying attention, you already know that this isn't random, right? These are the same institutions that built their foundation for Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. This time, it's XRP's turn. And what did we just hear from Ripple Swell? We heard there was so much institutional interest in XRP that these ETFs are going to set records. And with all the timing here falling right after the government reopens, it kind of just feels, well, strategic now, doesn't it? Now go over to xrprightnow.com, my news website. We do about 10 to 15 pieces every single day covering the latest and greatest in Ripple and XRP news. I posted this article a couple of days ago on November 4th saying, I'm talking about XRP ETFs and the spot products. I want to go through this because a lot of people missed this piece of news. Some of you might have heard it, but this sets us up for where we're taking this video. The DTCC, aka the organization that literally processes trillions in US securities daily, well, they just put 9, count it, 9 XRP ETFs up on their website. 9 of them. That means that your issuers of these ETFs are ready to go. The liquidity partners, they're ready. And we're all waiting for one thing, and that one thing is the SEC stamp, which is going to be coming in the month of November, especially with the government reopening this week. But here's the twist to this. A DTCC listing, it doesn't guarantee trading, right? But what it does is that it confirms that the entire back end is set to go live once the moment that approval hits. Canary Capital even removed their delayed amendment last week. That's your legal speak for, hey, guys, we're cleared for takeoff, right? And guess what? NASDAQ's own internal system, they are already running the ticker for these ETFs through their testing feeds. What do you think is going to happen here? Folks, these institutions already know how this is going to play out. They understand what is happening. That is why they are front running everything. This isn't speculation anymore. It is time for launch, which brings us over to this. Now, this is Bitwise. Okay, this is their CEO. Remember, Bitwise's ETF goes live in 2 weeks on the 19th. He stated, and I'm going to let you hear it from him, that there is a ton of interest in XRP. Now, I want you to think about what the Solana ETF has done in its first 9 days. A crazy amount of volume. A crazy amount of volume. XRP is going to trump that. I made the video on this talking about if XRP saw the same volume that Solana saw in its first 9 days, and I told you where the price was going to go. You're going to want to listen to that video, but listen up to Bitwise's CEO.
We're thrilled with the response, and there were also other crypto asset ETFs that launched last week, Litecoin, Hedera, and I think they took in less than $10 million. So to some extent, these ETFs are vehicles for getting exposure to an underlying asset, and inflows and demand are going to be related to the extent to which investors want exposure to that underlying asset. So Solana, I think, has an incredible story, sort of perfect for this moment.
Do you think an XRP ETF would outperform the Sol one that we just spoke about?
I think it'll be a huge...
Yes, he says yes, he does. He believes it's going to outperform Sol. You got to go watch the video when I talked about the volume and the 40x multiplier that we are going to see. Keep listening.
A huge product. There's a ton of interest in XRP, and my colleague Matt Hogan, our CIO, likes to say that the death of an ETF is apathy, and apathy is certainly not one of the elements of XRP. There's a lot of energy and interest and enthusiasm, so I think there's $100+ trillion that live on traditional rails, and more of that is migrating on chain, but nevertheless there's $100 trillion there. An ETF is often the first time that much of those assets can tap into exposure to an asset, and I think if they have the opportunity to have exposure to and trade XRP, it'll be a very useful and high demand product.
A high demand
We're thrilled with the
product. He knows where this is going. Look, this is why it's huge. When institutional clients start demanding exposure to a specific asset before it even trades, it's usually because they already know what's coming. This is the same exact energy we saw before Bitcoin ETF approvals. And look how that played out. A brand new all-time high before halving. Mark November 19th for Bitwise's launch. Pay attention to this one, because by then, the narrative, it might have already flipped bullish, which brings us over to this. Donald Trump drops this bomb. He says it looks like we are very close to the shutdown ending.
Democrats understand that, and it looks like we're getting close to the shutdown ending. You'll know very soon. Thank you very much.
You'll know very soon. Very interesting, right? This is not your typical political noise. This is the signal that Wall Street was waiting for. Because once the government reopens, the SEC goes back to full operation. And that means one thing. You're going to see spot XRP ETFs that are flying, that are just going to be launched out of nowhere. Remember, XRP ETF should have been launched in October, but the government shut down. We have a backlog of ETFs that are going to come to life. This is the moment that your institutions have been front running for weeks. But as Donald Trump says that, we get the breaking news that have come in that states that the Senate just reached a deal to end the US government shutdown. This is massive. You want to know how the next leg up of the bull run starts? It's right here with this announcement. Regulatory gears are spinning again. Filings, they're moving. And those XRP ETFs we just talked about, well, they are now cleared to flow through the approval pipeline. It's a flood, everyone. It is not a drip. I want to be clear on that. It is a flood, not a drip. XRP, HBAR, Litecoin, Solana, the altcoin ETF era, it is officially on deck. The great bull run of 2025 is officially about to kick off. And you know how the market reacts when money starts flowing into new ETF products, right? You know what's coming. Which brings us all the way to this. We're going to talk stimulus plus ETFs because that is your perfect storm. This is where it gets absolutely wild. Trump just confirmed a $2,000 dividend check for every American except high-income earners paid from tariff revenues. This isn't stimulus from debt. This is direct capital injection. Who was around in 2020? I know I was. If you weren't around, or If you are unaware what happened to crypto in 2020, let me break this down for you. The moment stimulus checks hit back in 2020, Bitcoin exploded from $6,000 to $69,000. If you put your stimulus check into Bitcoin, it'll be worth over $21,000 at today's current price. Ethereum back then did a 40x. Now I want you to imagine the same liquidity surge combined with spot ETF inflows, institutional volume, and a government promising record investments, and plants and factories going up all over the place. You can't script a more bullish setup if you tried. And I want to bring you to this because history, you know what? History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme now, doesn't it? Let's break it down. February 2018, the government shutdown ends. Bitcoin pumps 96%. 2019, the shutdown ends. Bitcoin pumped 157%. Now it's November 2025. The shutdown is about to end again, and the XRP ETF era is literally days away. History is whispering the same story. Every time the government flicks back on, liquidity floods back in, and crypto, it lights up like a Christmas tree. But this time, your fuse, it is way shorter. I hope you understand where these markets are going. I hope you understand all of the bullish, or all the bearish narratives that have been being pushed out on your social media timelines. That was them shaking the tree, trying to get you out of the market. I hope you are still holding on to that tree and they didn't get you out of the market. You are about to see the greatest financial wealth shift in American history. These markets, where they are going, you are not going to be able to comprehend at the end of the day. You're going to think it's all a dream. These things are about to rip. XRP ETFs are about to set records. So here's the reality. November 13th, it's not just another date on the crypto calendar. It's the spark that could ignite the next macro wave. The shutdown's ending, ETFs are loading, and retail, they still have no idea what's about to hit them. If history repeats and all signs say that it will, we're about to witness the first true altcoin-led bull cycle in years. Stay locked in because when the XRP ETF bell rings on November 13th, everything, and I mean everything, changes. I hope you enjoyed. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch all y'all